Stories of an Aircraft Builder. So, 2005 was the year I started building airplanes for Peter Jackson. He invited me to his place and that we could get to know each other. I had already written that as a family man I wouldn't go on a trip around the world without the rest of my family. He then extended the invitation to everyone without any problems, a very noble move at the time. Alexandra and the children were also part of the party. The invitation included everything, including a visit to an airshow. At this event, cute little paddle planes for children were on display and drawings for them were sold at a stand, and the children were able to fly around in the little planes. Of course, our Yannick was unstoppable, and Alexandra was so happy to see how much fun the little man was having that she said she would buy the drawings and then make one for him in the workshop with me. I've already told you how I quit my job at the railroad and devoted myself entirely to building airplanes from then on. I came from New Zealand not only with a contract to build airplanes, but also how many of them to be built, and that was a lot. I will mention the individual types in later episodes. Now I'm going to talk about Alexandra and what she did. Due to the huge workload, I was now away from home for longer than I was working shifts at the railroad. Alexandra therefore came to the workshop every day and spent as much time with me as possible. And because she didn't want to just sit around lazily, the story with the paddle planes suited her very well. Apart from simple handicrafts, she had no experience in building such things, so I gave her a hand every spare minute. Woodwork was not so much her problem. Metalwork was a different story. She could learn everything, whether it was cutting metal parts to size, bending, filing or screwing. None of it was an issue. The only thing she couldn't do was welding. I did that for her. Little Yannick was always there to help, of course. After all, it was supposed to be for him, and his next birthday present for his 4th birthday. The de Havilland DH-82 Tiger Moth served as a model, and the construction of the airplane went well. There is also a cute little anecdote to tell that made us all laugh. Alexandra had no idea how to read construction plans, and so she worked away, sticking absolutely to the plan. People who work with drawings all the time don't even think about it. So I didn't even try to think to explain to her that for reasons of space, half of parts that are drawn on a natural scale are often left out, and this is indicated by a tear-off edge in the drawing. So one morning she disappeared into the wood workshop while I was working upstairs. Around noon she came in and proudly wanted me to look at her work because she had finished the parts she wanted to cut out. When I came into the workshop, I laughed out loud. She had followed the drawings exactly, and so there was half an elevator and various other wooden parts, each half with the exact tear-off edge of the drawings. She couldn't help but laugh also, even if it meant having to redo her work for the rest of the day. As they say, not as a punishment, just for practice. Since then this has become a running joke in our house. But do it completely. The paddle plane was a complete success, and Yannick and the landlord's children raced it around the yard. Arguments about who was allowed to fly were the order of the day. So Alexandra decided to build a second small biplane. But when this one was finished, her ambition got the better of her, and she said, "Building something like this according to a blueprint is nice, but it's just off the peg. I want to make something very special for the boy. It should be a Fokker triplane as a paddle plane, as close to the original as possible." Yannick got the little moth for his 4th birthday. Alexandra also gave her a nose art according to Yannick's personal wishes. A smiley with an aviator cap and scarf plus the text, "Yannick with the airplane." For the 5th birthday of the boy it was to be the triplane. There were no construction plans, so I made a few sketches. She then built everything herself again except for the welding. She always said later, "I built the pedal plane out of my Achim's head." And she was rightly very proud of her work. The fuselage, tailplane and rudder were made from steel tubes, the wings from wood, just like the original. A tail wheel was used for steering. The engine was a small model made of wood and cardboard discs that was mounted on a shaft rotating on ball bearings so that the little pilot could set the whole thing in motion while pedaling with his hand on the engine shaft. One day she disappeared into the woodworking shop again without a word, and when she came out a few hours later, she was hiding something behind her back and asked what she had there. I shrugged my shoulders, and she pulled out the propeller she had carved herself, a really pretty little replica of the axial propeller for the triplane. The whole pedal plane was something very special. The construction was as close to the original as possible. The attachments of the engine cowling, the engine mounting, the assembly of the wings, everything was just like the original, only smaller. This meant that Yannick could not only play at flying, but also at maintaining and dismantling the plane for rail transport and all sorts of other things. The whole thing was covered with the same fabric that I used for the big planes, pure linen. And even when it came to the paint job, she wouldn't budge. It had to be like the original. First, the triplane received the factory paint, then the personal markings of a pilot of Yannick's choice. They leafed through books and magazines until Yannick decided that it should be Lothar von Richthoven's plane. My dear Alexandra did a fantastic job. I was very proud of her. We also took the pedal plane to 1 or 2 events, and the children were able to enjoy them. Yannick generously made them available to the others, trained the little ones and showed them how it all worked. He sometimes reprimanded rough children and was sometimes reprimanded by their parents, until it was explained to them that he was the owner of the planes and that the children concerned had to be careful with them. Just like in real life, while the same parents were scratching and smearing their father's planes with their fingers greasy from chips and bratwurst. As long as Yannick could fit into the pedal plane, he and his friends had a lot of fun with it. Of course, the plane suffered from this, and once it had to be completely recovered by Alexandra. The little pedal plane is now in my museum, and occasionally when younger children come, parents take photos with it and their offspring.
I